Well, here I am standing at the gate of Riverwood, which is the cottage that Kappa and I go to every now and then. March isn't the ideal time of year to give people a tour of rural Canada, but we were here and I just took it in my head to try something different. So this is the front gate. That is the house at the end of the lane. And you can see that right now the snow has melted. When we got there, just a few days before this picture, there was snow on the driveway and underneath it was sheer ice. And then we had a little bit of rain and it became puddles, and at this particular point in time it was dry, hard and dry. What I'm going to do is just stand here at the gate for a few minutes, and first I'm going to look south, and then we're going to have a look north. So here we are looking southward. All the land that you see on either side of the road belong to Riverwood, except for maybe some of the trees at the very end of this picture. There's not much land on the right side of the county road, but there are about 10 acres. Most of the land is on the left side as you look at the picture, and actually most of it is behind me. It's actually to the north of where we're standing. We walked down the road on that particular day. It was very cold. We walked for about 10 minutes down and 10 minutes back, and we were passed by 2 cars and one just at the very end of the walk. So it can be fairly isolated there. Looking north, it's a little bit more typical because we see a lot of forest, mostly pines. There is a little notation that I've put on there that there is a little rock outcrop. This isn't a very big one, but nevertheless it's there, and it's very typical of the Canadian Shield. And on this particular frame you see it a little bit closer, although it's not truly representative. But this is what the Canadian Shield looks like for the most part. Lots of trees, lots of rocks, and what you don't see here in these frames are lots of lakes. So we're back at the gate, and we're going to walk down this lane. We are a little bit closer to the farmhouse, and I've put 3 arrows there that are numbered. 1 off to the left, 2 off to the right, and 3 sort of off to the background. And the next 3 frames are going to take a closer look at those 3 views. So here's number 1. We have a number of red buildings here. A is the garage, just across the driveway from the house. B to your right is just a shed under which lived a snake for a number of years. And C is the very picturesque red barn. A couple of owners previous to this had Clydesdales, and they would take the locals out for hay rides and sleigh rides and all that sort of thing. So that's the view from arrow number 1. From arrow number 2, we're looking behind the farmhouse off to some buildings on the other side. You can't really see them very much here, but we're going to take a closer look later. And number 3, I climbed up on a snowbank at the end of the driveway. Well, not at the end of the driveway, but the end of the cleared part of the driveway. And we have a closer picture of the red shed. And that is the Crow River in the background. You can't see much of it right here, but that's what it is. And we'll have a closer look later. We're looking across the yard at the back of the house that's at Riverwood. The picnic table that you see is completely covered with snow at this time of year. In some years, it certainly would have been last year. You see, 4 red pines at the back of the yard, and behind that a couple of buildings that we're going to walk towards, so you'll be able to see them a little bit more closely. So walking towards the buildings, here is Kappa, the famous Kappa, walking on the surface of the snow. We've had a lot of freezing and thawing lately, so the snow became quite crusty while we were there. But previous walkers, you can see, have left their tracks right into the snow, and they were wearing snowshoes. If they hadn't been, they would have sunk a lot lower than what you are seeing here. We've passed the buildings. You can see the house on the far left with the white shed behind it, so it's not quite as big as it looks. There's another old barn in the middle of the picture, and where Cuppa is standing on the right, you can faintly make her out. This used to be a planer mill, and Treebeard has refurbished it in the last couple of years and screened it in and so on, and it's a very pleasant place to sit on a warm summer's evening and just listen to music or chat or listen to Turtle Stack stories. So just past those buildings that we saw, we're able to look down into the Crow River, which is a very meandering river at this point, but very rejuvenated and fast at other points. It comes into the frame at the left, takes a big swoop or meander, and goes off to the right. Towards the very right-hand side of the picture is the area from which we access the river to go swimming, and we swim across to that sort of peninsula of land that juts out in the center of the picture. And here we are, number one, towards the left-hand side of the picture was where we took the last one from, and 2, just across the river, was that same point of land that we saw, and 3 is the area from which we just climb down that little bank and go swimming. In summer, when we swim, the river's a lot lower than it is now. In winter, when all the snow begins to melt, it's a lot higher than it is now, and may even flood over the bank, and where we're standing could be flooded in some years. And just really turning away from the river and continuing to look south, we're looking at a little path that goes into the south woods, and we go in there periodically. The property doesn't extend too far in there. Most of the property is behind me towards the north, and that's where we're going to go next. So we're walking north, and you've seen this red barn before, and behind the barn is the majority of the property of Riverwood, which is nothing but forest. Cuppa is about to walk into what we call the logging road. This area was logged not that long ago, and you did see a picture of the refurbished planer mill earlier, and that's, well, what it sounds like, where logs were planed and cut. Just a couple of pictures, because once you're in the forest and on these roads, one picture is very much like the other, but it gives you an idea of what it's like in there on a day in March. It was quite sunny and nice. During the winter, a number of trees do fall, and that's one that's blocking the road. And here's another photograph a little further up. So, we do hope that you have enjoyed this little presentation, which is much more difficult and longer than I thought it would be. This is your tour of Riverwood, brought to you by you-know-who, Anvil Cloud. Well, we'll call it Anvil Cloud Studios just to make it sound good. Well, we'll try. And it's been, if you manage to survive and stay with me for these 8.5 minutes, then we'll be much pleased. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I don't know if I'll ever do this again. Thanks. Bye-bye.